This is Dr. Quinlan with Quinlan Chiropractic Clinic from Coppell, Texas, and you're listening to the Dunham Business Radio Show.
Hi there, this is Lori Dunham with Dunham Business Radio. We won the 2019 Gray Bowl Show of the Year. We also got an award for community service, and I can't thank you enough for all of your support. We are on the next level, and we're going higher, and I can't do it without you, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, and stay tuned in.
Live from Arlington, Texas, it's the Dunham Business Radio Show. And here's your host, Lori Dunham.
I'm so excited to see you tonight. Thank you so much for joining in. We are just having an amazing day. It is great. We're here in Arlington, and we're just having a great day, and our guest today is going to add to that excitement. Let me tell you what, she's got some great information, really coming from the medical field. And listen, if you've ever struggled with communicating with your doctor, or if you worked with your parents in a elderly doctor situation, she is going to be the person you want beside you. So stay tuned, because her story is amazing, and she's inspiring, and she's got a lot of things to offer. So, but hey, there's still time, so be sure to ping your friends, let them know that we are here and ready to go. Let me adjust my screen just a little bit here. So here we go. And we also have with us today our international co-host, our friend, and our own advocate, Roshini from India. Welcome to the show again.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Lori. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
So glad you're here. We just love having you on the show.
Thank you. And I love coming over here every time because you're so inspiring.
Well, that's great. We love having you. So, so you had a chance to interact with our guest here just a few minutes ago.
Yes.
What's your first initial reaction with meeting her?
This is something, when I just interacted with her, I didn't know there's something, what she's doing is even existing. And I feel people need that help. Like, there's so many, I don't want to really, say anything much. I want people to hear her, of course. Right. But that is something, where all the patients should know, we all need some help. And yes, let her talk, because otherwise I'll tell you the entire thing. I don't want to do that.
Well, we're really excited to have her. She's a very busy lady, and the fact she took some time out on her schedule to come here really it just means a lot. And we're really, really, really grateful for her to do that. Sure. Before we jump into her real quick, though, remind everybody, Roshini, where you are, what you do, and a little bit about you again.
Okay, so my name is Roshini Dhatingan, and I'm from India. That is Maharashtra, Nasik. So Nasik is the name of my town. And I'm a lean manufacturing consultant, a mechanical engineer, having my own business in India, running the consultancy firm since past 7 years. So happy to be a businesswoman, actually. Very happy to be serving all the manufacturing units in India. And plus I'm a Miss India finalist under the International Glamour Project, which I just got selected in December 2019. So at the moment, that's what I'm busy working at, running the Miss India pageant thing. Yes, very much into it.
That's awesome. Miss India, 2020 Miss India finalist.
Finalist, yes.
That's great. So we're already claiming you as the winner. So
Yes,
Yeah.
your words are coming true, it seems like, because every show you say this and it's gonna happen.
That's right. Every show, yeah, absolutely, you're going to be the winner. So
You need to
I,
pray to Jesus that he makes me win.
it's mostly because I want a trip to Miami so I can come see you. So
Yes.
that's that's why I want you to win. No, but
True, true.
you're an amazing lady, and if anybody deserves it, it's you. So
Thank
so
you.
how about we jump in? You want to meet our guest?
Yes.
Super
Waiting,
excited
waiting.
I'm super excited to introduce everybody to Deidra Kindred. She's a registered nurse. She specializes in cardiovascular intensive care. She's a certified legal nurse consultant. She's the owner of Affordable Assisted Living and Services, and she's also a CPR instructor. And so, as if she didn't have enough irons in the fire, now she's the proud owner of Your Healthcare Nurse Advocates. It's a company that advocates for patients and their families as they navigate the sometimes confusing world of medical treatment. She is passionate about helping her clients and encouraging other entrepreneurs to follow their dreams. She's a fine example of one who lives positively and making a difference in the lives of other people. She's here to share more about her journey with us, so please help me welcome to the show, Deidra Kindred. Welcome.
Woohoo!
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Morning.
So
Good
excited.
morning.
That was a wonderful introduction. Like, who is that?
That's you, girl. That's you.
Oh, okay. I was getting tired just listening to it.
Oh, come on now. Thank you so much for taking out the time from your very busy schedule. We really appreciate you. Let's just jump in. Tell people a little bit more about where you are and who you are, and then we'll talk more about your business.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Well, my name is Deidra Kindred. I have been a cardiovascular intensive, well, I've been a nurse for 20 years. I've held quite a few different balls. So I was cardiovascular intensive care about 15 or 16 of those years. I've also done legal nurse consulting where I help attorneys read medical records. I also have taught CPR for fun. I've been a travel agent for fun. I had a residential care home, not so much fun, but a great learning experience.
There you go.
And now I am the proud owner of Your Nurse Advocates.
Great.
All right. That's
Great.
quite a resume. Now, where did you go to school? Where did you graduate from?
I went to Texas Women's University right here in Dallas.
Hey, that's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
university.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you got your bachelor's. Are you also a master's as well?
No, I didn't get my master's. That's another story. But I do have my bachelor's and several certifications still adding that are in the works. We nurses, we like certifications.
Absolutely. You're a lifelong learner. I can
Oh,
tell.
yes, I love it.
Yeah. I'm very much the same way. I mean, every day I'm learning something new, and that's my goal too. So, okay, so let's talk about Your Nurse Advocates, the company where you help families navigate medical treatment. Tell us more about that.
Yes, amazing. That is God. Totally, totally, without a doubt, God. So I've noticed that when I was working in the hospital and also working home health currently, that we do a disservice to families, individuals, because we don't really help you understand your medical journey, meaning that there's no collaboration, there's no coordination of care most times because a lot of healthcare professionals, they have to move quickly. They don't have the time to really go in depth and answer your questions. So I feel like in the hospital, I could be an advocate, but an advocate more so for the hospital system. Yes, I said that. Not an advocate for the patients that we are serving. So basically, your mom or dad or you come into the hospital with a acute need, and we basically treat you and street you and say, okay, catch up with all your other physicians on what we did.
Right.
Okay.
It's kind of triage, right? They just do
Absolutely. Or say you come in.
stabilize and get out.
Absolutely. Exactly. And then you're left with, okay, now I got to go update the cardiologist, the pulmonologist, the renal doctor, the primary care doctor, the neurologist, or whoever it may be that's on your team outside of the hospital. And you're taking time off of work. You are getting confused when you get into the doctor's visit. You know, there's no coordination or collaboration of care because basically they have a busy schedule. So that's one reason why I started Your Nurse Advocates. The other reason I started was more on a personal level. My mom, at the age of 50, she started developing these symptoms that look like MS or Parkinson's or both.
Oh.
And she also had asthma where she had to go and get allergy injections at least twice a month, especially during the summertime with the allergy season and things like that. And she also had colon cancer. So that's 5 physicians that we had to try to coordinate care. I have 2 amazing sisters that are very driven, but we all were married, we all had kids, we all had jobs, we all had businesses or whatever, but we also had mom that we had to coordinate that care with those 5 physicians. There were times that I would beg to get off work to go take my mom to the doctor. And I had to go through all these questions about, well, didn't you take her to the doctor last week? Well, we don't have a bloom pump nurse. All these things that I felt like I was asking permission to take care of my mom. That's how I felt. Yeah. And I got to argue with you because I really need to be at that doctor's visit with her. So my thought process was, what if there was a neurology nurse that could help my mom go to the doctor's visit with her, sit in that doctor's visit and update me and the rest of the family on what was going on. So we can make plans about 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now, instead of just the acute problem at present time, right? So that's my passionate and personal reason for starting Your Nurse Advocates. So we are educators, advocators, and navigators. We sit with you and take the time to make sure you understand your plan of care.
Wow, that is really it's a powerful need. You know, because I think back when I had medical treatment years ago, you know, I didn't understand all the medical terminology, and you know what they called a gallbladder was a 30-letter word, and I'm like, what is that? You're taking that out of me? They're like, yeah, that's your gallbladder. I was like, you know, why not just say gallbladder? You know, so I can only imagine. Even being older than I was, you know, 70, 80 years old, trying to go to a doctor to get the information that you need to then go home and tell your family about it. And then if you even brought your family with you, your daughter, your son, your cousin, nephew, whatever, some responsible party, they too, if they're not in medical, they don't understand the language, and they just take the paperwork, right? They take the paperwork, they go home and go, here, this is what they said. And then you can't really call back to the ER or to the urgent care or something and say, can you explain this to me? They say, no, go to your primary care and have them read it to you. So I can see this service as definitely a huge need, and especially as our population gets older, they need that. Do you think that's your perfect client would be the older generation, or is it really just all across the board?
It's really both, because even though someone says someone is older and that, you know, more than likely they're not going to be really involved in their care, I meet a lot of savvy, very intelligent seniors in that population. So they're like they're also my pretty much my market. But my passion goes out to women who are between their 30s and maybe 60s, and your parent is still here, right? Or maybe you have a diagnosis that you're not, you know, understanding. So that is what I call the sandwich generation. So between the ages of maybe 30 and 60-ish, or maybe older past that, you're in a box, so to speak, like you're in the middle of the sandwich. So you have your life, your busy lifestyle, and then you also have your loved ones that you need to care for. Who is helping you decrease that stress and increase that understanding on that journey? Because lots of times it's the family dynamics two that can be involved in that. Maybe it's one sibling trying to handle everything, or maybe you're a single child, So it's a whole conglomerate of the sandwich generation, and then also the people who are over 65 and they just really don't understand. And I get really passionate about this because so many people are on bukus of medications. They've been on these medications for years. That does not have to be your lifestyle forever. What about talking with your physicians and saying, okay, let's develop a plan of care for the next 3 months, changing diet or exercise habits, or making these small little positive habits so you can get a result of getting off some of these medications that are so expensive at times.
Yes. So I'm beginning to get a clear picture of exactly where you step in. It's not necessarily for the older patient who might need assistance going there. It's more for the child, the adult child who is advocating on behalf of their parents, and they can't get off of work, they can't do something. So let's put it in a different perspective, just to kind of bring home the concept. Back when I was working in corporate America, I had a problem with my internet, right? And called up the internet company, and they're going to send a technician sometime between 8 and 5 on a particular day. Well, I'm sorry, I have to work. I can't call out. So there are little taskers, if you will, that or your neighbor or whatever, but there's a company that you can hire somebody to come and be that 18-year-old or older to sit in your house and wait for that technician to come, and they advocate on your behalf for the internet company, right? So they step in and they answer the door, they make sure that all is well, and then they lock the door and they're done, right? So very much, and that's very simplistic compared to what Deidra does. But Deidra, you're basically that person that steps in for that adult child and says, all right, you go to work, you do what your life, and I will go with your mom or dad to the doctor, and I will understand the treatment plan. And because you have nurses, if they prescribe something, there's a very good chance you could identify an interaction early without having, you could be proactive rather than reactive regarding medication, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are the communication gap fillers. To put it in your terms, I'll tell you a quick story, if you don't mind.
No, please.
So I was working in the hospital in the CVICU, and one of my patients, family members came to me and said, can you come and interpret when the doctor gets here? And I'm like, well, interpret? He's from America. He doesn't have an accent. He speaks English. He said, no, he doesn't. He speaks medical terminology.
Oh, right. It's another language.
So, yeah. So it was totally over her head because he's using these big words, arteriosclerosis and all these words. And when you can just say your arteries are clogged, so being able to be that liaison to say, let me put this where you can understand it, because so many people, they're afraid to say, I don't understand a word you just said.
Yeah, I say that. I'm like, can you put it in like human terms, please?
Simpler words.
Absolutely, absolutely. But so many people from another generation, from the baby boomer generation, they're like they want to respect the doctors, which they deserve respect, but they don't want to ask questions. There's so many times that I've walked into a hospital room and the doctor had just left and they have this look of a deer in the headlights, like, so then I can elaborate for a few minutes because I was working in the hospital to explain it. And then they were like, oh, okay, well, why didn't he say that?
Yeah, because he's highly educated and he knows
right. And they're scared to, say anything or question the doctor. So that's where we come in, because it's so many services that I provide. It's hard to say, put it in a box, because I feel like everybody's individualized. So it takes me meeting with you, doing my 30-minute free phone consultation, meeting with you and hearing your story. And then I can basically formulate a quick plan of care or give you some resources if my services don't match. But everybody's individualized. So when people say, well, what's your pricing? That's hard to say because everybody doesn't need the same thing.
Right.
True.
Right.
Right.
So the people that you have on your staff or and that you're bringing on your staff, do they have to be nurses or in the medical field? Like, tell me some of the criteria of joining your team.
Great question. I'm so glad you asked that because I'm super passionate about that because yes, that's hence the name, you're nurse advocates. Okay. I do want them to have some form of credibility. I'm super strict about that. At least 5 years in your specialty field, at least still working or connected with your specialty field some way, somehow. If you are not a nurse, I do partner with nutritionists, pharmacists, non-medical home health companies, physicians, because the way I see it is that I am treating the whole person, not just your disease process. I want to know your family dynamics and how that interacts with let you know how that interacts with your certain disease processes. Nutrition, exercise, that all takes into play. Your mindset, body, soul, and spirit, all that takes into play. So partnerships with people who are not nurses, but are healthcare professionals, and also the nurses, I vet them very closely. I want you to have that experience so you know what you're talking about and you can be a true advocate.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really
it's
great.
Basically, this is like a close hand holding you're doing for the patients, and you're listening to them out. You're listening to them out, yes.
And I love every minute. I love every minute because I feel like I couldn't do that when I was working for someone else. I couldn't,
yes.
You know, and if I was working for a surgical center, they give you a list. They do have their coordinators, you know, no offense against anyone. Don't take it that way. But what I'm saying is that I'm passionate about being a individualized, personalized advocate. I don't want someone to come and say, well, this is the list of people you have to call today.
Right.
I want to be that person. Like when I worked in the ICU, I knew my patient from head to toe. And I took the time to listen to, you may have certain problems that are causing you stress, that's causing your blood pressure to go up. So we don't really need to automatically write a prescription for blood pressure. Let's investigate. Let's do some documentation. Then if you're up to it, these are the changes you can make slowly. It's a marathon, not a race, right? Then if you're willing to do that, let's do that in the right way and document that. Then go back to the physician and say, hey, this is what happened when we started doing these modifications. So we don't need this said blood pressure medication that's going to cost $90 a month.
True.
That's right. That's right. You know, Deidra, what I think you've identified is an opportunity to extend care past the hospital. You know, that you're bridging the gap, just like you said, you're bridging the gap between the hospital and the family, and you're using your education and your specialty, your experience to come in and say, you know what, I know what they're talking about. You really are a medical translator.
Yeah, basically, yes. And I'm not a Google medical. I didn't get my education from Google, right?
And that is, and if you, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So one thing what I've observed what you're doing is, you know, the patients require that kind of mental support also, because when they are going through something already, they are so worried. They don't know the terminologies. On top of it, they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow with me. So you are actually, like Lori just mentioned, you know, you're taking care of them and you're making them understand. And on top of them, you're helping them to even get out of it. And that is something very much required for the patients, which you don't get to really see so easily around. They're suffering. That's it.
Right. I mean, so many people are, and I'm just so passionate about this. I can't help it because I know God has me on this journey for this. Right. So I was going to say something too about our little COVID season that we're going through. So, you know, a lot of the hospitals are being very restrictive on, you know, first they weren't letting anybody in, and now some of them are letting one person in per day. And the loneliness factor that when you're in the hospital, whether you have COVID or something else, no one can come and see you, you know, or if you designate one person. So my goal is to teach families how to work with the hospital personnel that are in there in the trenches with your loved one. How can we collaborate with them? How can we make sure your father, mother, sister, brother, whoever it is, doesn't feel so lonely? What are things that we can take, action steps that we can take to fill that void?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's all about collaborating with the people who are on your healthcare team, no matter who it is.
And I have some really good questions that are popping up. So before we get into those, let me just remind you, there's still some time. Ping your friends, let them know that we are here. And if you've got a question for Deidra, go ahead and put it in the comments. And if we can, we'll answer them. But if we don't get to them, don't worry, because Deidra's going to be monitoring the box over the next couple of days. She's going to engage with you and answer your questions, point you in the right direction. Like she said earlier, if she's not the person for you, she's got resources. And we're going to talk more about that. But right now we're going to jump to a commercial and allow our sponsors to say hello to you. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some other ancillary ideas, maybe for single people. Also talk about the technical or legal requirements in regards to this type of service, and then some of the additional resources that Deidra may have for you. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello guys, I'm Uthman from Morocco. You are listening to the Dunham Business Radio show.
How many times have you put off a project and end up cursing yourself for waiting until the last minute? My name is Dawn Shannon, and I work with highly motivated procrastinators. If you're tired of putting those projects on the back burner and want to finally get them off your to-do list, head on over to my website, jovistrategies.com. That's JOVI strategies.com, where you can download my free 30 Days to Done worksheet to learn how to get more done in 30 days than most people do in 90. No, really, do it now.
Hey there, everybody. We are back. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. You are listening to the Dunham Business Radio show. I am your host, Lori Dunham, and today we are talking with Deidra Kindred with Your Nurse Advocates. And let me tell you, this particular service is so needed in our society today. It's just, basically what we've talked about is that she fills the gap in between the hospital visit and your long-term health journey. So Roshini, what have you gathered so far from our interview?
So the best thing what I liked about is the kind of, they've become like a mediator between the patient and the physician, which is very much required. And most of the time what happens is with the patients, because they don't have idea about what the doctors are talking. So there's a lot of, sometimes there's misunderstanding, or sometimes there's a lot of misconceptions that come into picture. So, you need somebody like this, who can do the hand holding with you and who can make you understand and sit with you. Because these things are such which cannot be just said, okay, you have this issue, okay, fine, just take the medication, okay, bye-bye, I'll see you, probably next week or maybe next month. It's like, patients are already so shocked. They don't know what is to be done. And in this situation, you need somebody who can sit with them and make them understand. So that is what I feel Deidra is doing, and that is very, commendable. Yeah, we need more such nurses around. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's bring Kindred. I always want to call you Kindred. Deidra, let's bring her back on to the show. So when we left off for the commercial, we were just talking about the isolation, the loneliness that occurs, especially during this time of COVID, but even when COVID is not running rampant. A single person, for example, regardless of their age, right? They don't have family around them. They don't have a support system. They're single, right? They're out living their life, and all of a sudden they find themselves in the hospital. How do you manage something like that? How do people in that situation reach out to you to have to find help or to fill that gap for them?
Well, thank you, Lori. I think that's a great question. But I also want to add that I'll address the in the hospital. I also want to add too that the outside of the hospital care is just as important, if not more important. The hospital, I think of it as hopefully a sparing event that happens in your life. Where it comes into play with my whole business concept is that those that are outside of the hospital trying to coordinate the care to all the doctor's visits. If you have to go into the hospital, we come into play then, but our services are very much needed outside of the hospital, because if you have 3 or 4 physicians, and even if they're in the same group, they probably don't have time to talk to each other because they're juggling a lot of balls, right? So if you have that liaison that can be the centerpiece, putting your loved one at the centerpiece and being able to coordinate that care so Dr. A can see Dr. B prescribed this medication, well, maybe we need to talk about that as a team. Is there something else out there that doesn't interact? Right? So it comes into play in the hospital with the loneliness and the isolation and the single sibling, or you're married and you don't have any other support system and you have to go to work. Well, we could easily be that second set of you, right? We could easily go into the hospital facility after all HIPAA release forms have been signed and things like that to let you know that, hey, I went and saw your husband today. He's doing great. The doctors did this, this, and this. This is the plan of care, da, 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 da. These are the labs. Whatever else is going on, this is what you can look for, possibly this is the questions you can ask. So being able to be that gap filler, I love that, to help you go ahead and continue living. You don't have to deal with the guilt so much because you got someone that's on your side that's going to be helping you along this journey. You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought it up, the legal aspects of it. Our society and probably around the world, right, Roshini? You've got health protection acts. And so some of the legal things that I'm thinking about is, like you mentioned, the HIPAA forms that, health information protection, health information technology, where there's that interaction between different hospital systems that's protected. And then also the medical power of attorney and various things like that. Can you talk about some of the legal requirements that you implement so that everyone is safe with their information?
Absolutely. So we have, anytime that I get involved in the care, I need to have the HIPAA release, Health Information Accountability Portability Act. I need to have those papers signed by anyone that's going to be on your healthcare team so I can collaborate them. And then I have a wonderful charting system called caretree.me. In that system, I can give anyone who's involved in that care, whether it's the home health company, the doctors, your son, daughter, sister, brother, cat, dog, whatever, I can give them access to a HIPAA compliant, safe platform where we all can collaborate if you can't be there. So you don't have to worry about, I can't be there at mom's procedure or doctor's visit. Whoever went we can communicate in that system. So I think that is so important because identity theft, especially my medical identity theft, is on the rise. I used to do identity theft presentations, but I don't do that anymore. But home health companies or medical personnel need to have enforced some type of identity theft protection, because that is a smorgasbord for identity thieves, because they have everything.
Right.
That they could possibly want. That's a great shopping cart for them. Yeah. So being able to make sure you have in place safety factors to help protect you.
So this platform you offer is kind of like a private client patient portal. You log in, you can see all the notes that the nurse has made, plus the family or other healthcare providers can go in and indicate notes that they've got, and so everybody can see everything related to that patient, but it's a secure platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I love it, because that's another reason that I do this, because you need to have that protection.
Yeah.
You need to have that security, knowing that your information is going to be protected and guarded. So that's so, you don't want just anybody willy-nilly.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
Do your nurses that you bring on board, do they need to be bonded and insured, or
Well, as nurses, yes. Okay, so first of all, nurses have to be fingerprinted and all this stuff, so that comes with it. But I also do require my nurses to have some type of medical malpractice insurance to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another subject I could talk about. Oh, and I don't even want to go there, but that I do want to make sure that you have some E&O insurance, medical malpractice insurance. Even though we're not hands-on as a nurse, I think that's a very important thing for you to do to protect yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're out there as an independent, right? Because they're not employees of your company. They're contractors, right? So 1099 contractors?
Yes and no. The nurses that I'll be onboarding after talking with my attorneys, the nurses that I've onboarded, that I will be onboarding, will be what we call PRN, that's as needed.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole concept with that is that, hypothetically, say I have someone who has a cancer diagnosis. Now, cancer is not my expertise, but I do want to provide you with someone who is the expert in that field, right? So I have an oncology nurse is very interested when I get that client that needs that guidance. Right. So my idea is to have them meet up, see if their personalities intercede or anything like that. And I'll go back up. First of all, I'm not hiring nurses just for the money.
Right.
You know, I'm hiring people who have a passion to be a real advocate.
Right.
For the client, not the hospital system, not the wherever they work at.
Right.
Okay. So serious about that. So I want someone who really has the heart for people. So yes. So the contractors would be more like the nutritionist, pulmonologist. I mean, not the pulmonologist, the nutritionist, the maybe physical therapist that has their own business. Maybe a person who has their own chef business. I know a wonderful lady, she has a business called Chef for Seniors. So partnering with that, or she teaches healthy nutrition, and she's also a pharmacist. Other people that are outside of my expertise that can help guide you along in that journey.
Mm-hmm. So it's really neat you bring up the chef, because that kind of got me thinking along the lines of my other thought was, you'd mentioned non-medical healthcare agencies. So these are people who don't disperse medicine or prescriptions. They just help around the house. They're a companion. They help you make sure you take your medicine, but they don't prescribe it. They don't make sure it's right. They don't look for interactions. They're just there to care for you, make sure you eat, give you a bath, things like that, right?
Correct. So they're exactly. So when I say non-medical home health companies, they're really private caregivers. Uh-huh. But they're not licensed. You're not going to get a nurse that's going to be with you 24/7 unless you go through a private duty nurse company. Right. So these caregivers that are giving you these pills in this bottle, sometimes they don't know whether, that pill is required at this time or not.
Or what it's for. They just know,
I
need to give this to grandma.
Right. And you never know. There's so many stories right there, but, maybe grandma doesn't require that pill this morning, but you gave it to her, now grandma falls, because there's a lot of factors that could go into play with that. She had a diuretic, and she had a blood pressure pill, and then she had something to help her sleep, and then she got up in the middle of the night and fell.
And so it's not that, I mean, caregivers are very smart. I mean, I've known many caregivers in my journey as well. I personally used to work at a healthcare agency in the IT department. So I wasn't in the medical, but I was able to interact with the nurses, the physical therapists, the speech therapists, and the occupation, and even the pharmacy, the sleep disorder center, and so I was exposed to that system from an IT perspective, the health information technology perspective, so the privacy side of things. But the caregivers, the home healthcare aides that would come in, they have a heart for the patient. They truly do want to do the very best thing. So it's not like they're just babysitting and they have no knowledge. They are very knowledgeable in their field, and they're very good with what they do. So I want to make it very clear, we're not saying caregivers don't know what they're doing. They do.
Oh, no.
And they're very needed.
Amazing.
They're desperately needed just as much. And when the nurse advocate can't be present, that caregiver can learn about the patient's case and actually interact with the nurse advocate, right?
Absolutely. And I want to say this too, like when I worked in the hospital or any place like that, those CNAs or the caregivers, they're there with that client more than you are.
Yes.
So they are my second set of eyes and ears. So I really depend on them because they know the client better than I do, because they're with them every day, for an extended periods of time.
Right.
What they don't have is the, education behind, medications interacting, but they know that client. So they are a very key team player when it comes to that. So when I say educating everyone who's involved, it's everyone, the caregiver especially, to maybe educate him or her on, you can see early signs and symptoms of a CHF exacerbation, meaning that, someone's going into fluid overload or anything like that. You can see the signs early, but lots of times the caregivers are not educated on what signs to look for, or they're not feeling like they have a part to play in this. They're not going to reach out, right? So you want to make everybody feel like they're valued. Yes. Everybody plays a key, important factor in that person's healthcare journey. So that caregiver, I make sure I build those relationships to let them know that, hey, you can call me. I've given you things to look for. Please don't feel like I'm the nurse and I'm going to be mean to you or snippety or throw out my credentials. No, you are important to me. You are important to Miss fill in the blank or Mr. fill in the blank. So you are a team player. Let's keep this person out of the hospital. That's the main ultimate goal, is to keep people from going into the hospital.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Now, just as an example, a caregiver, like you said, they're around them all the time. They spend more time with them than sometimes the family does. They help with their personal care and hygiene. And, for example, if a patient's on blood thinners and the nurse or the caregiver notices a bruise on their backside or behind their leg, that could actually save their life, right? Because they tell you about it, and that could be a key indicator for something very more serious, right?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it's so many factors that can go into that, with the blood thinners and things like that. So yes. So my whole goal is to educate everyone on that team.
Yeah.
To things to look for so we can catch them early and prevent, like you said earlier, be proactive instead of reactive. That's the whole key.
Absolutely. So if there is someone who needs your services and they want to hire you as the advocate, where can they reach you?
Oh, several places. But first of all and foremost, give me a phone call and we can schedule that 30-minute free consultation. That number is 817-854-3240.
Say it one more time.
817-854-3240.
Great. That's the fastest and easiest way to reach out to Deidra. And do you service just the Dallas-Fort Worth area right now? And do you see yourself going national with a network?
You're getting ready to make me start screaming. Absolutely. That is my 5-year goal, is to empower nurses to be an advocate and have their own advocacy business.
Amen.
I am so excited about that, because lots of nurses, the majority of nurses, go in working for someone else, and you really following someone else's dream. What is your passion? What is your purpose? You know, you can do this too.
Yeah.
So many nurses complain about how some hospital systems are treating them. Well, you can be your own marketable material. I think of me, I work for myself. I enjoy it. And if I do work for someone else, it's going to be on my terms.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're not able to meet the needs, I mean, it sounds like you do like 1,000 things for these advocates, for these patients and family. You are a true advocate, but there are some things you cannot do. So when you can't do them, or you're not able to do it, what do you do? What are some extra resources that are available?
Oh my goodness, so great. So I am part of a couple groups of national patient advocates. So, and I'll say this, when I talk to someone and I can't meet their need, I meet their need in another way by providing resources. So I have access to other advocates that are, maybe they're not a nurse, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a specialty. Like I know an advocate, he specializes in guiding people through Medicare.
Okay.
I know other advocates. Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yes. And I don't even want to touch Medicare.
No.
So I have no problem with referrals, right? I know other advocates who are doing insurance. They look at your insurance, particular insurance plans or whatever, and they help you, navigate that. I know other advocates that help you with hospital bills. You think your hospital bill is too high, or you're getting charged for something or whatever. So it's all about collaboration with everyone.
Yeah.
So the Alliance of Professional Health Advocates provides me a plethora, I love that word, a plethora of access to other resources. And then too, I know, maybe you need a home health company.
Right.
Maybe you need access to food service, Meals on Wheels or Chef for Seniors. Maybe you need access to the Alzheimer's Society or another arthritis foundation. The list can go on, the Parkinson's Foundation, whoever you may need. I can listen to your story, and it's all about connections.
What about a housekeeper? Like if you've been in the hospital and you're single and you come back and you're in a body cast, you got people helping you with, I mean, that's extreme, right? But say a procedure, you've had a procedure and you can't really get around, and you've hired Meals for Wheels, or you've got this Chef for Seniors, but who's cleaning your bathroom and who's taking care of your house, who's feeding your pets, watering your plants when you can't, right? So that's even another extended service that might be available.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of concierge services out there. Well, not a lot, but it's a pretty up and coming business too, where people who have that passion for running errands,
Yes. Right. And I mean, you could always call, Fiverr, not Fiverr, what is it? Favor. Or TaskRabbit or something like that, but you get a stranger, right? You want to meet.
And it's another one. Yeah, absolutely. But I vet my people that I refer to.
Yes.
Because what I'm so passionate about, a lot of stuff.
Hey,
but,
it's so good.
I'm passionate about when you are referring someone to someone, that person's going to call them back. Yeah. I explained it to somebody the other day. I said, it's like me hooking you up with this gold digger, right? And then you're looking at me like, well, why did you give me that person? They stole my money. They did this, whatever. So anybody that I refer to, I've had some type of sit down with them, or I've worked with them, or I know, like, and trust them. Yes. Period, point blank.
Yep.
Because I don't want you to come back to me and say, you sent me to company such and such. They didn't return my calls. They were unprofessional, that yada, yada, yada. That means so much to me when I say, hey, call Susie Jones with such and such home health. She's going to take care of you. Make sure you tell them that I sent you over there.
Yeah.
Right. And plus, I'm going to give you at least 2 to 3 choices, because I don't want to feel like I'm in the lead of your care. You're in the lead of your care.
Right. You're still in charge of your own service.
Right.
And really, Deidra, that just boils down to, you put your reputation on the line when you refer. So you take it seriously. It's not like you're on the phone and Googling somebody at the same time saying, oh, here's somebody in your area, go call them. No, these are people you know, like, and trust. You do business with them. In fact, I would even venture to say, if you needed their services yourself, you would call them.
Absolutely. 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 That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I don't want to refer you to somebody that because there's so many bad stories that go along with that. And there's people that I've kind of like deleted from my circle because you didn't answer the phone when I sent so-and-so to you. And then you want to call back a few weeks later. Well, they never called. Well, yes, they did.
Yeah.
So I'm just a advocate in all shapes or forms. I hate bullies. I don't like unprofessionalism. I don't like people taking advantage of people or anything like that. So if you have a passion for people, I'd love to connect with you, right?
Awesome.
Because it's some way we can work together.
So if I know, or if someone listening in the audience has a service that they think that your patient or your patient's family could use, how do they get involved in your network so that they're a preferred, a preferred vendor, right? I guess that's what you could call them. How do they get listed in your preferred directory?
Well, I got a pretty full directory right now, but
do you have housekeepers in there? Do you have
I have a couple, but not many. But yes, I don't want to close down the directory in any shape or form. But what that is all about is, don't call me up and say, hey, I want to get on your directory. If you call me up and say, hey, I want to build a relationship with you.
There you go.
Get to know and educate you about my services, and you learn about, and I learn about your services, then we can collaborate. But I just don't take any willy-nilly, oh, well, I'm with XYZ home health company, because I'm going to ask you, what makes you stand out? What are people saying about you? What are your connections? And then if we're in the networking world, I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm a watcher. I see how you treat people and what people are saying about you, because that's your brand. When you're not in the room, what people are saying about you, that's your brand.
That's exactly right. And what you do when no one's looking is your character.
Right.
Your integrity. Right. So do what you're supposed to do even when no one is looking. And
absolutely.
Many things come your way. Roshini, you've been kind of quiet this segment.
Yes, she has.
I was just listening to her. So I have one question, because you all were just talking. So is it something like when somebody, do they have to have your services for a fixed period, or it depends upon you? How is it?
Okay, so repeat that question one more time, Roshini.
So the thing is, if somebody wants to take your services, is there a fixed period they have to take your services for, or it depends upon the patient?
Great question.
Or depends upon you?
Oh, great question. So everybody is onboarded pretty much the same way. Now, I will say there are special circumstances where I have onboarded a client. So basically, that 30-minute phone consultation. Okay. And I'm taking notes and listening to your story. Then if we are not a good fit, then I refer you to a resource. And if I don't have that resource, I'm going to research it for you and get, some type of connection. Or the better scenario is my services fit, and you want to have a more in-depth needs assessment. So the needs assessment is $149. It can be up to 2 hours. I prefer to be face-to-face. I wear the mask, all that good stuff, you can wear the mask if you're comfortable, but mostly it's me wearing the mask to protect you. During that needs assessment, I will be looking at your medications, all your doctors, your past medical history, who's going to be involved in your care, who do you want on your healthcare team, and we're just basically getting a plan of care incorporated.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So after that 149 needs assessment, you have this choice to say, oh, well, I don't need your services right now. Thank you. Goodbye. 6 months down the road, you can say, oh, you know what? We need your services now. We don't have to do that needs assessment all over.
Okay.
So I have a list of services doing that needs assessment. What I do is I listen to your story and I say, oh, well, you could probably use me to do this, 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 and this, and this. That will be under the subscription model will be more beneficial to you, or it's an hourly rate. So it just depends. So I have a couple clients that one said, oh, the subscription model is what I want. That's where you get 5 hours a month. You can use those 5 hours however you want to.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Or the pay as you go, which is an hourly fee, and I just bill you. I did this, this, and this, and it's kind of like under the subscription model, you get everything under that fee, right? Okay. Under the pay as you go, you're probably going to be very specific about what you want. You wanted me to go visit your loved one in the hospital, and it took me, da 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 da. Or I collaborated with the physicians, and this is the meeting we had today, and this is the plan for tomorrow, 3 months, 6 months down the road.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's really great. I like the idea that you do the needs assessment once and then it's on file for 6 months or a year. So, they can come back to you at any time during that point. Now, they don't buy your services or hire you for, a year. Next year, you're going to have to do another needs assessment because things change, right? So like every 6 months.
I have to update it. Right. So I basically update it. So basically, maybe in the past, you have all these issues. And now the issues have accumulated. So we can just kind of update that file. And then I can update whatever services or adjust whatever services you need. And then we can talk about onboarding me for the hourly rate or for the subscription model.
That's fantastic, man. You're just filling a need that's so great right now. So one final time, how can people reach you to get started to work with you?
Okay, the preferred way is to call me or text me. I do have a HIPAA compliant phone line, so just so you know, that number is 817-854-3240. Or if you prefer to email me, that is Deidra. That's DEIDRA @yournurseadvocates.com. Or you can go to my website at www.yournurseadvocates.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Deidra, for coming on the show. We really appreciate you. It's been a wonderful, enlightening, eye-opening experience. My brain is just firing that I've got all kinds of people I want to send your way that could be of a valuable resource to your network. So absolutely wonderful time with you today. Thank you again. Roshini, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Always love having you here.
Thank you.
And so this is going to wrap it up. For this week. But if you would like to be a guest on the Dunham Business Radio Show, just send your picture, your bio, and your cell phone number to DunhamBusinessRadio@gmail.com, and that'll fast track you, and we will be in touch to get you scheduled to come on and share your story about your journey. And remember, continue to put the comments in the box. Deidra's going to be looking at those over the next couple of days. She wants to engage with you, and please give her a call. If you know someone that needs her services, please share this video. Let's get the word out. People need what Deidra has, and we can't do it without you, right? Without you, this is just a conversation, right? So please stay in touch with Deidra, get involved, and let us know how we can help you. And until next week, stay on top of the world, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Dunham Business Radio Show. Be sure to follow us at Dunham Business Radio and check out DunhamBusinessRadio.com for more info.
I'm on top of the world, now I'm living. And the good just gets better, keeps on giving. Not even close to the end, it's just beginning. Life is getting lighter while the days are getting brighter, yeah. And then